Stream. So my name is Lara Ryan and this is Complete Test Success. Today's live stream, we are looking at grammar. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to get you to write some sentences, and with a main focus of me pointing out your grammar mistakes, explaining those grammar mistakes so that you can learn from them. Normally we focus on a particular part of the test, like, speaking, task 1, task 2, something like that. But in today's lesson, I just want to focus more on grammar and kind of help you, identify what types of mistakes you make, but then also show you why they're wrong and explain how to fix them. So that's essentially the goal today. Hi, Matar. Welcome to the lesson. Good to see you here. So previously we worked on task 2. I gave you task 2 question and got you to write about it. I decided to kind of work with this task 1 question today. Now, whether you're doing academic or general training IELTS doesn't really matter, because what I'm trying to do is just get you to write about this and we'll focus on your grammar. So even if you are doing general training, you can still learn, what types of grammar mistakes you're making, and I can give you some advice on that. Hey, Lewis, good to see you here again. Okay. So let me give you a task. So let's say write a description of the red and yellow lines. All right, so that's what I'd like you to do first. Write descriptions of the red and yellow lines. Share it with me in the comments. And then if you're making any mistakes or there are any issues that you need to fix, we can talk about those after that. Okay, and that's basically what we're going to be doing in this lesson. I'll just get you to write various like descriptions with a focus on your grammar. And that's it. Okay, so I'll let you guys get on with it. Write a description of the red and yellow lines. Share it with me in the comments, and then I'll put it on the screen and we'll talk about, any issues or any things that we could do to help you improve your scores, your grammar score in particular. Okay, so I'll just give you another 30 seconds and then I'll get you to share whatever you've written with me. Okay, so the fact that they are pretty much the complete opposite of one another gives us a nice opportunity to write a complex sentence to describe both of these. What I would say is, in general, describing one category at a time is easier. You could make an attempt to describe both of them. And kind of together, the fact that they start at the same point, there is that opportunity there. The most important thing is that it's clear, right? Okay, so let's see. Yellow lines are steeply upward trend and red lines are downward dramatically and fluctuates. Okay, so a few mistakes there. So let me just take that and we'll go through it together. Just give me a second to find the comment. Okay, so this is Mathar. Let me just add that to the screen here. Okay, so the first mistake is with plurals. There's only one yellow line, but you've written yellow lines. So the S means it's plural. So that's a mistake. And there's only one red line. So again, that's a mistake. So we're going to delete the plural and just make it so that it's line and line. Now, the next mistake is with articles. So when we're talking about something specific, then we're going to use the definite article. Now, how many yellow lines are there? Well, there's only one. So we're going to have to say the yellow line and the red line, because there's only one red line. There's a blue, red, yellow, green, orange, and I don't know, is that turquoise? Something like that. Okay. So that's the first thing, plurals and articles. So you're going to have to be careful with that. And it is just one thing. So subject verb agreement will be I am, you are, he is, she is, it is. So the yellow line would be, if we were to replace it with a pronoun, that would be it. So we don't say it are, we say it is. So we'll change that one there, and we'll change that one there. So far you've mistakes with plurals, articles, and subject verb agreement. Now, when we use the word and, if it's followed by an independent clause, we need a comma before the word and. So here, that first sentence is about the yellow line, and the second part of the sentence is about the red line. So it's a new topic. We have a new subject here. So because we're no longer talking about the yellow line, we're changing, we have a new subject, we need a comma before the word and. If we were still talking about the yellow line, so for example, if this next description after the word and, if it was still talking about the yellow line, then we wouldn't need a comma before the word and, but we have a new topic. So we're going to need that comma there. Okay, so far we have mistakes with plurals. We have mistakes with plurals, articles, subject verb agreement, and punctuation. So let's continue on to the rest of them. The yellow line is steeply upward. Now the word steeply, we use this to describe a verb. Okay, so it rises, or it rose steeply, or it dropped steeply. But we use an adverb to describe a verb. But the verb here is the word is. You're not trying to describe the word is. You're trying to describe the upward trend. So we can say a steep upward trend, because this is a noun phrase. So steep is an adjective to describe a noun, rather than using an adverb to describe a verb. Now, one last problem then with this part of the sentence is the collocation. So this is more of a vocab thing, but we wouldn't say the yellow line is a steep upward trend. We're describing what it has. So the yellow line had a steep upward trend, and the red line, again, went downwards dramatically. Now this time, dramatically is an adverb, but it's describing the verb went. So this time we have an adverb describing a verb. That's okay. So the red line went downwards dramatically and fluctuated because it's in the past. So quite a few mistakes there. Quite a few mistakes there with the grammar. One thing I would say is when you're trying to improve your grammar, you don't want to try and fix too many grammar mistakes at the same time. So we had articles, plurals, punctuation, subject verb agreement, word form. So that's, if I said improve your grammar and you try to fix all 5 of those things at the same time, you're unlikely to make very fast progress. Whereas if you choose just one, so let's say, for example, you start with articles, put all of your time into improving articles and don't worry about any of the other ones until you've mastered that one specific area of grammar. When you've got that right, move on to subject-verb agreement. Focus all your attention on that. So, it might take you 2 weeks of studying articles to become comfortable and proficient in that. But once you've done it, you can move on to the next one instead of trying to think of many different things at the same time. So start with one when you're happy with your improvement, and I'm saying probably studying 2 hours a day for 2 weeks or so, move on to the next one, another 2 weeks, move on to the next one, another 2 weeks. So slowly but surely you're improving that accuracy. Don't try to do all of them at once. That's just not really practical or realistic. Okay, so that's your feedback there, Mathar. And I have a sentence here from Lewis. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just copy and paste that. And we can look at it together here. Just give me one moment to get myself organized. Okay. Right. So what we have here, the average length of bus trips. The average length of bus trips. The average trip length. The average length of bus trips. So the length of bus trips doesn't really work as a noun phrase. So it's the average trip length taken by bus, the average length of bus trips. So it's not really how long the bus trips were, it's how far people traveled. No, we need to change this, but this is more of a vocab mistake than a grammar mistake. The average length of maybe trips taken by bus showed a steady increase between 1970 and 2020, while that of cycling trips decreased consistently during the same period. Okay, great. Everything else is perfect in terms of grammar. And using this structure here, while, that's a great way. That's a great way to make sure that you're getting a high grammar score. So the accuracy here, this is completely accurate. The one thing that I changed was a vocab mistake, not a grammar mistake. So this is really good in terms of complex structure because we're using the word while to connect those two sentences and using it correctly. So it's a complex structure and it has no error-free. It has no errors. It has no mistakes. It does have a vocab mistake, but when we're counting, part of your grammar score is checking how many grammar mistakes you've made, and the examiner is checking, for example, to get a band 7 in grammar, you must frequently produce error-free sentences. So this is an example of an error-free sentence. Yes, there was a vocab mistake, but that doesn't count against you in terms of the grammar score. Okay, so that's very, very good. Well done. Okay, let's move on. Let's do another one. This time, let's have descriptions of the green and blue lines. Okay, so again, I'll let you guys write your descriptions. This time you can include the data. So these sentences that you guys wrote, if it was a task 1 essay, we would never say the yellow line. We would say the name of the category, the way that Lewis did. But also, you wouldn't just give a description of what happened more generally like this. You would put in the specific details. So if this was the body paragraph of a task 1 essay, you would likely say, where did it start? What was the starting figure? What was the ending figure? So write it as if you're writing a body paragraph. Write it as if you're writing a body paragraph and include the data as well. And that will give you a better idea of, the potential grammar mistakes that you need to avoid. Okay. So, Mathar, you're very welcome. All right. So again, I'll let you guys write the next description of the green and blue line, and then I'll talk about that with you after that. Okay, guys, so I'll just give you another, let's say 30 seconds there, and I'll get you to share what you've written. Again, I'll be giving you feedback on any mistakes and potential ways to improve. While I'm waiting for you to share your writing with me, I can just share the link to my courses. So I've got courses for all aspects of the test: reading, writing, listening, speaking, and as well I have just corrections. So some students will just, purchase essay corrections or just purchase practice speaking tests, which are also obviously included as part of the courses that I run. So if you need help, so mostly it would be, I do get some students who've never done the test before, but mainly I work with students who, if they've tried the test 1 or 2 times already, they can't figure out what they're doing wrong. So then I'm just able to guide them towards understanding, okay, these are the things you're doing wrong. These are the things you need to fix. This is how you fix them. So yeah, if you need that kind of support, feel free to reach out. Okay, so Mathar, the usage of cars among children in US rose during the year 2000 before it hit back slightly down in 2020. So we do have some vocab and grammar mistakes there. No harm, that's no problem at all. But let me just go through it and help you. All right. So I'm going to fix the vocab and grammar mistakes for you here. Okay, so the usage of cars among children, that's not really what we're talking about. It's like, how far did they travel by car? It's not that they're necessarily using the cars. It's not that they're driving the cars. So the distances traveled by car among children and it's always the US. So that first thing was more of a vocab mistake. The distances traveled by car more than the usage of car. Okay, so the distance traveled by car among children and in the US. So it'll always be the US. And any country that starts with United needs the word the. So you have the United States, the United Kingdom, the United Arab Emirates. So just be careful with that. So the distances traveled by car among children in the US rose during the year 2000. Now, if it rose during the year, that would be between January and December in the year 2000. But that's not what the diagram is showing us. It's showing us, like what you're describing is between 1970 and 2000, right? So rose between the years 1970 and 2000. Okay, so you're not describing inside the year 2000, you're describing by the year 2000, or between 1970 and 2000, or from 1970 to 2000, whatever way, but you're describing that it was there was an increase or a rise during that period. And now hit back slightly down. Again, this is more of a vocab problem, but you could say fell slightly rather than hit back slightly down, just before it fell slightly in 2020. And that's perfect. In 2020 is fine. So what we're looking at here is more vocab mistakes than grammar mistakes. But as well, if this was a body paragraph, if it was an overview, we would just say more generally that it increased. We wouldn't need to say that, it went up and then it went down. If it was an overview, we would just more generally say it increased. And if it was a body paragraph, we would need to include those figures. So, let me just do it. The distance traveled by car among children in the US rose from about 20 miles to roughly, what did I say, 34 miles between the years 1970 and 2000, before it fell slightly to just below 30 miles in 2020. So that's important that we do include the figures like 20, 34, 30, that we do include those, because the descriptions in the body paragraphs, that's the main thing that we're doing, is we're trying to describe, you know, what exactly happened in the graph. So then ideally what it would be like is if somebody read your essay, would they be able to kind of recreate what the graph looked like? So imagine the person reading your essay cannot see the graph. So you should write it in that way where if you don't give the information to the reader, they won't know. Imagine that they can't see the diagram. The only information they have is the information you give them. So you're going to say, like, you know, in this year, it was this many miles. In this year, it was this many miles. In this year, it was this many miles. So you're trying to kind of describe the key features to the reader so that they can follow and potentially recreate. You know, they could write, if they wanted to draw the graph based on this description here, they could draw pretty much exactly what that diagram, what that chart shows us. So it's important. It's important to include that information in the body paragraphs. But obviously in the overview, we wouldn't include the specific details because that would get us a band 5, maybe lower, but band 5 at the most for task achievement. So those specific details like 20 miles, 34 miles, 30 miles, they are essential in the body paragraphs. But the opposite way around, it's absolutely essential that we don't include them in the overview. Again, like I'm focusing on grammar here today, but you know, that is what you would need to do. So a sentence without those figures wouldn't really exist in the IELTS in task 1. Okay, so doesn't seem like we're getting, there's Lewis. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll just take a look at Lewis's writing here now. And I think we'll just finish up after that. So let me just copy and paste Lewis's writing in here and we'll go through it. All right. So Lewis has the average car trip length. No. So car trip length isn't a noun phrase. So it's kind of the same issue we had in the previous one. So the average length of a car trip rose from, let me just see those details, rose from 20 miles in 1970 to above. I've spoken about this with other examiners and they say that's fine. Above 30 miles is fine. But I always feel like above 30 miles could be 50. So if we say just above or slightly above, I feel like we're being more accurate in our descriptions. We're not like, we're saying how much above. So slightly above 30 miles in 2000 and then decreased. We need commas before and after then. And then decreased to just below 30 miles in 2020. Okay. So that's good. In contrast, the average walking length, the average maybe distance of each. The average distance, maybe the average distance spent walking. And we can just remove that. Showed a decline from more than 15 miles to less than 5 miles between 1970 and 2020 and 2000, excuse me. So 15 to 5. So what are we looking at? Walking here is the blue line, 15 down to 5. Good. And subsequently increased. We don't need a comma there because, like we were saying earlier, after the word and, if there's a subject, you know, like and it. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button there now. But if you had the comma there, we would need a subject. You say and it subsequently increased. That's fine, because if there's a subject here, we need a comma before and. But you don't have a subject. You don't have a subject. We're borrowing the information here. The average distance spent walking subsequently increased. So the subject of this clause here is taken from the first clause here. So that's why we don't need a comma before and subsequently increased to, and again, I'm just going to say just below or slightly below like that, 10 miles by 2020. Okay, very good. Good piece of writing there. Clear, concise, good range of structures, written with good grammatical accuracy. So some really good writing there from Lewis. You would be looking at a good score for that stuff there. Okay, so as I said, we don't really have many students with us here today, so we'll just finish up a little bit earlier than normal. Lewis, you're very welcome. Well done. Obviously, and I mean, we've known this for a long time. Your English level is very, very good. You know, I've seen a lot of your writing and we're aware of that already. But yeah, you're very welcome. My pleasure. Okay, so I will be back with another live stream next week. And next week we'll be focusing on general training. So IELTS writing task 1, general training IELTS writing task 1 will be our focus in the lesson next week. I'm not sure exactly what time or what day. It will very likely be the same time, like this time on Wednesday, but I'll have to wait until later in the week and I'll schedule it. So just as long as you're subscribed, you will see the notification when I schedule the lesson. But yeah, that's it for now. Well done, Lewis. Good job, Matar. Talk to you guys next week. Take care of yourselves. Bye.